It's time to listen to BHR with your hosts, Patrick and Paul.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. This is Paul.
This is Patrick.
And today we are going to be talking about social justice warriors and a little bit about white privilege.
Poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
And that, of course, was Dr. Martin Luther King talking with his I Have a Dream speech. And it seems like that's something that people have forgotten. And I just don't understand how people are still seeing the world in color. And the main thing that I'm kind of getting at is right now at the College of Pennsylvania, there are a group of students wearing white puzzle pieces to symbolize their white privilege. What do you think about that, Patrick?
I mean, to be really extreme about it, it really makes me think of Hitler with the Jews having to wear their pins.
Right. I feel like in a certain sense that even using the word white privilege that's racist. I mean, what all you're doing is you are saying, "Oh, hey, I have white privilege." Let's translate that. Let's break that down a little bit. Not only are you saying you're special, but then you're like, "Hey, I feel bad about it." Now, what type of logic is there? I mean, all you're doing is adding. You're saying like, "Hey, I'm guilty of believing in white power, so I'm just going to call it white privilege. I believe that I have all of these, pros to my life, and I feel bad that you don't because you are a different color." I mean, like that is the definition. That
It's the most pretentious thing I've ever heard in my life.
That in a sense is what these people are doing. We're bringing attention to the differences of these people. All you're doing is saying, "Hey, I feel bad about this, but I believe I have a better life than you." It's like, Patrick, I'm a better person than you, but I feel bad about it. Like, I mean, there's a lack of logic in what's going on. Any other input on that? I mean, I could continue on, so I'm just trying.
Well, yeah, I think that social justice is setting society backwards.
Yeah.
Basically, by their own logic, I'm not saying that I believe it this way, but they're trying to bring themselves backward to make everybody equal instead of bringing everybody else forward.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I know that both of us, we've worked with people from all walks of life. I mean, from all over the world because of our activity in certain aspects of the oil industry. And like, I never we are all human beings. We're all working a job. We are all trying to get by on our day-to-day activities. And the color of our skin, like, I really do believe in a world where we do not see color. When I have friends that I talk to about this, and they are of other color, but I don't even like to think of it in that manner, that I am just talking to another human being about these groups of people that are really rehashing racism. I mean, we are just bringing it back. We are digging deeper, and it's like, no, hold up a second.
One thing that I hate is it's so embedded in our culture that even when you describe someone that you're talking about, what's one of the first things you say? Oh, this Asian guy, or this black guy.
Yep.
That should never have to be a thought that crosses your mind, but because this war on racism and all these things are constantly being brought up to your attention, it's on your brain. So when you go to describe somebody, it's just right there.
Yeah.
So subconsciously, you're automatically thinking of color.
And now, I'm in a sense, like that in and of itself, that is inevitable, but that is not what racism is. Racism, by its definition, means that you feel superiority above another race. Now, to say, "Oh, this Asian guy, this black guy," what that is a type of prejudice. And to say that we live in a world without prejudice, that is wrong. And I will admit that. Like, it is inherent, and in a sense, it's evolutionary that we have certain types of prejudices towards certain types of people. And it's just where you're at on that spectrum. It's not racism and prejudice. They are not a black and white ordeal. I mean, we do not live in a world where it is oh, you're 100% racist. I mean, there are. That's another thing. The concept of it's impossible for someone of a minority to be racist, which is something I do not understand. Racism is itself the definition. You feel your race is superior towards another. Mm-hmm. That it goes all across the board. It does not matter what you are. I mean. Yet we live in a society, and specifically now in the United States, there seems to be a large movement this agenda being pushed by the left to continue the separations between these people. And it's really, really aggravating when you continue to get this stuff pushed in your face. We are not racists. People need to understand what that actually means. And also, yeah, you kind of brought it up. What is the deal with the left's agenda and these pins with identifiers? That seems oddly familiar to what was going on to the Jews during World War II. Like, hey, you know what? You're different. You're different. So let's put this identifier on you so we all know you're different. Like, what is going on with this mindset?
I mean, we're the fascists and we're the racists. Well, it's okay to do it. But
they're doing it. They're doing it to themselves, and not only that though. But like, okay, best case scenario, what they're doing is virtue signaling. All they're doing is saying, "Hey, I'm a better person than you." Why? Oh, because I do see the world in color. Really, like, do we need to replay? Do we need to just sit down and listen to Martin Luther King over and over and over again until these modern leftists, these Antifa, get it through their heads that the world that we exist in should not be based in black and white and yellow and red and brown. It is a colorless world that we need to exist in.
You need to judge somebody by their character.
Exactly. And when, speaking of character, when you're going around stopping freedom of speech, when you're going around burning police cars, when you're going around rioting, let's judge you off of your character. Let's stop calling those things protests and let's start calling them riots. These people are not protesters. They are causing civil disobedience. They are trouble in this society.
You brought this up in the last podcast when we were talking about the protesters at DAPL. Do you think that any of these protesters are being paid?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, but what is the end agenda there? And that's like...
I think it is to divide the country.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't see it here in North Dakota because everybody is more right-wing. But when you watch the videos of what's happening, all it's doing is dividing our country.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's just... like, what is the end goal? What do these people want? Like, if these people are paying for these protests, what is their agenda? What do they have to gain from separating the people? And then, like, I mean, you can dive into whatever conspiracy theory you want to there, but what are the political gains of separating the country? And I mean, I don't know. I don't think that might be a podcast for another night, yeah. But it's a dangerous game to be playing. And I mean, what is the freedom of the press too? And furthermore, because you have these billionaires, right? Which I feel like that's another thing that most left. I don't know about the right, but maybe it's both sides, left and right, that tend to forget that these media organizations are being ran by billionaires. They are owned. To think that they are not pushing a political agenda is stupid. You are being ignorant to the truth there. Like to think that none of them are pushing political agendas.
And that's what I think is hilarious, is because one of their largest messages is anti-capitalism,
Yeah. let's just add that one on to another of the political spectrum, yeah. The left side that they don't like capitalism. They don't like capitalism. They want to put badges on certain people of certain colors in our country. So, oh no, sorry, I was talking about Nazis there. But,
no, they're fighting the Nazis. Remember, it's okay to punch a Nazi in the face.
Right. The Antifa, the anti-fascists, which is such a dangerous game in and of itself. Because I mean, like they believe that just probably by what we're talking about right here, that we ourselves are fascists. Mm-hmm. That we do not. We are Nazis, Patrick.
And yes, and people are going to also think that we lean far right because we are so against this. But I fall more in the middle. Paul, I guess you probably have your own opinions about where you fall on the spectrum as far as political.
I prior to this last election, I considered myself. I didn't even like to label myself at all. I was like, you know what, I'm a scientist. But anymore, it's like I'm moderate with conservative beliefs. But the other thing is that I'm a diehard capitalist. I mean, as far as economic structures go, to consider, like, to think that any small group of people can organize and operate an economy is absolutely stupid. And I mean, all you have to do is take a look at Cuba, Russia, any of those countries that have a really strong socio-economic policy. I mean, they're failures. But let's kind of get back to that social justice warrior. Let's get back
absolutely.
to that.
I was just
I mean, the one thing that these social justice warriors do, like when they do disagree with you, instead of actually having a conversation, having a debate, which they might participate in until they feel like they've lost, and then they're done. They
will start screaming Nazi, racist.
Yep. They feel like they're not willing to have a compromise. They're not willing to listen to your argument. They only want you to listen to theirs. Mm-hmm. And if you do not, agree with it, they're going to walk away. They're going to leave. They're going to cry. They're going to scream. So, how do we communicate to social justice warriors? How can we come to a middle ground?
And for those of you who are not familiar with the social justice warriors, I do recommend that you spend even just 5 to 10 minutes trying to find someone interviewing a social justice warrior and see if you can find someone that actually has a reasonable argument and is willing to debate after they feel like they've been put into a corner.
Right. No, that's, yeah, I'm sure those are, you might as well be searching for unicorns.
Or even just an extreme version, I guess, would be look up one of Milo Yiannopoulos' speeches and look at the protesters outside.
Yeah. Yep. And, I mean,
just the signs that they're holding will tell you everything you need.
Oh, to know. Yeah, yep. But, and you know what? I'm sure we have a few of our friends that are, in certain aspects, in certain beliefs, they are social justice warriors. What would you even say? Like, I mean, let's take a minute and let's have a little personal conversation with them. What would you say to them? I mean, let's real, honest. I mean.
It's hard to even say because in my mind it's already going to the yelling at me, calling me a racist. None of my friends I feel like are that radical about it. God, I don't even know what I could say.
Yeah. Well, we're sorry.
I would try to use facts.
Yeah. And also, one thing I would like to say to him is that I am not it's not that I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hear your argument. But don't be afraid when I start poking logical holes into your argument. Like, if you do not have a logically sound ground, should you be following? Should you be believing in what you're preaching? In a sense, like, if it's so easy for people to cause that emotional reaction while you're trying to debate what you believe in, is it proper for you to actually be believing in those things in the first place?
And that's what makes me the most nervous, is it seems like a lot of these people are blindly following these beliefs just because there's a bigger group of people telling them that this is right, this is okay. And they get there and then you try to question them about what's going on. And a lot of them don't even have any, the proper knowledge about what they're protesting.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
There was a news interview where a guy was just interviewing people. I don't even know what protest it was. And he was just asked, they were protesting the ban, I'm putting it in quotations, of the Muslims. And the one kid, they asked him, do you feel like we need to make sure that people, we need to do background checks on people to make sure they're here? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. We need to make sure they're cool.
Yeah.
And basically in a roundabout way, he gets the kid to basically admit that he agrees with the ban, because we're not stopping anyone from coming over here. We're just being more strict,
right? Well, then
about who we're letting in.
And I do know that that legislation, that executive order was going through, there was some issues with people getting hung up in places, which that kind of happens whenever you pass any type of legislation. There's certain people, there's certain things that incidences do occur. So I mean, yeah, people in a sense, they're taking like these remote things and blowing them out of proportion. But no, I totally lost my train of thought there, actually. So
The first note of ADD kicking in between us.
right, no, I want to actually talk a little bit about that concept of the Muslim ban and that type of topic. You know, I've had a couple of debates with people over Islam. I mean, my religious beliefs are for a podcast in the future, but I do not align myself with the people of Islam. I'll say that much. And I believe that our culture, as the United States, and I'm talking about the whole melting pot of our culture, it goes against the grain of what fundamental Islam is. And one argument that I commonly use is the rape and sentencing to death of women over in the Middle East. When they are raped, they are sentenced to death. Certain times it's happened before. And I say that's wrong, right? And I'm trying to argue for women's rights over in the Middle East. But these people that are trying to defend Islam over here, which it seems to be more on the... They tend to fall more on the political left spectrum. They try to defend it, and I just don't see how you can defend a belief where, you know, let's just take a look at Qatar, which is for the most part people consider a pretty civilized country over them in the Middle East. One way that you can really judge a country's how civilized it is, like first world, second world, whatever type of country, is by the number of women that it employs. And Qatar has 13.5% women employed, which, oddly enough, Afghanistan and Iraq have much higher percentage of 19%. Saudi Arabia has, I think, in the ballpark of 16 to 17% women employed in their society. And yet these people here, women over in our country, are trying to defend these countries, these people, this culture, and they're trying to say that it's okay. And it's like, well, now, hold on a second. I mean, do you really want a man telling you what you can wear, when you can work, when you can leave the house, and that you can't leave the house without family or a male figure guiding you? There's something wrong with the logic, Patrick. I mean...
Well, even... also bringing it back directly to the social justice part of it. And let's not even look at, you know, the Muslim countries.
Yeah.
Let's look at Europe.
Mm-hmm.
There was rapes that went on, not, was it unreported or was it wasn't unreported. It was, nothing was done about them because of fear of being a racist and a Nazi.
Yep.
And this was done in Muslim neighborhood.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it was done in the UK. It was over 1,000 rapes over the course of, I think, a couple of years, and none of them were really reported. I mean,
because of the fear of being labeled a racist and a Nazi because you're being intolerant
of their culture. And like when your culture is based off of a religious state, which, you know what, our country was based, like, certain aspects of our country are based off of religion, but our country was also founded with the concept of secularism. Like, we want that separation of religion and state, and that is what's kept us alive, is that separation. Our country afloat is that separation. There's people in our government that believe those religious beliefs, but even they like to respect the Constitution, and you want to try and keep it somewhat separate. But to have an Islamic state, like a government that is ran by that religion, you deal with a dangerous game there. I mean, just a random little fun fact here. The punishment for leaving the Islamic faith is death. But you get 3 days to change your mind. I mean...
Hey, they're being lenient by giving you 3 days.
And you know what? Most likely, I mean, I know that our main topic today was supposed to be about social justice warriors, but maybe the only result that we're going to be really getting out of this is that I'm going to be triggering some social justice warriors, which I apologize. If I ruined your day, I'm sorry. If I ruined your week, I am so sorry. But this really shouldn't ruin your week.
No, I mean, if you don't agree with something, don't listen to it.
No. I refuse to have that as the best.
I'm not saying scream in somebody's face and tell them you don't want to hear what they say, but say you're listening to this podcast and you don't agree with it.
Right. You know what?
Turn it off. Walk away.
No, you know what I say? Post a comment. Say something. Let's talk. Let's have a discussion.
Well, yeah, if you're willing to have a discussion. There's nothing wrong with
if I'm dead wrong about it saying that the punishment for leaving the Islamic faith is that is death, by all means, tell me. But I highly doubt that you're going to find that to be false.
Okay.
That is a true thing. I mean, like, if we're wrong, let us know. If you have a better logical argument, let us know. Participate. I mean, people need to, the concepts of safe space, they need to dissolve that idea and get involved. People need to open
One of
up
the biggest problems that I see too is, not with what you said, but it brought it up to me, is people aren't willing to have a discussion. If you want to bring up, say that all the issues that social justice is trying to bring light to, if you want to bring these things up, you need to be willing to have a discussion about them, and you need to be willing to debate them, whether you win or lose.
Right. And you should also try to recognize, like, what you are trying to defend. Does it actually fall into what you believe in? Because if you're going to argue on the defense of Fidel Castro, you probably shouldn't be believing in women's rights. You probably shouldn't be believing in the LGBTQ community. Because, I mean, those two things right there, those people were oppressed in Cuba, not too far off of our border, and yet people still want to heroize. They won't say that this man's a dictator. So, you know, make sure the person that you're trying to defend actually fits into what your core belief systems are, because when you come to the debate with me, I'm going to bring those things up. So,
okay. One of the things that you brought up here, I'll try and see if we can get this back on the social justice side, is the safe spaces. What is the deal with the safe spaces?
You know, one thing I'm really grateful for is that at our community college here, that there is no such thing as a safe space. So that's good. I mean, they are totally welcoming to debate and conversation and expressing different political views and religious views. But I know that a lot of college campuses have these designated areas. One of my friends actually is going to Penn State, and after the election, there was many areas designated to safe spaces where you are free from these thoughts that you don't agree with. I mean, that's really what it is that you are putting a vacuum in between you and these terrible bad thoughts out there.
And I think that is ridiculous. And to bring him up again, there is a quote from Milo, and he says that, well, I'm more paraphrasing than quoting, I guess, but he says that people that go to a college and they need a safe space are not ready for the real world and should not be allowed to be at college.
Like the saying on our website, the world is not a safe space. I mean, people are going to be prejudiced. Yes, I fully admit that there is a natural level of prejudice in this world, but that doesn't mean that you think that you're better than other people. I mean, it's a dangerous world. You don't always win an award. You don't get participation medals. I mean, you benefit, and the society benefits when you as an individual take the responsibility and you do something well. Like when you're good at something, society is a better place when you personally are good at something. And that is the best way for our society to grow and to expand. I mean, it's also one of the fundamental aspects of capitalism. If you wanted to start a business and it grows and it grows and it grows, and eventually you're employing thousands of people, that's a good thing. I mean, you can trace so much of, like, the social justice warrior concept, like it brings up so many other arguments. I mean, it's such a weird clusterfuck of concepts in my head, where, you know, there's social. I suppose in a sense that I have you ever met a conservative social justice warrior? Someone that,
I think that's almost an oxymoron.
I mean, like, in a sense, like by its name, right? Like let's kind of dive in. Like a social justice warrior, like they are going out, they are trying to defend society, but what are they doing? What are these people doing?
The only thing that they are doing is fulfilling the warrior part of their name.
Right. But I mean, like in a sense, what they're doing, like in my opinion, they're filtering out what they view or what their group views as wrong behavior, wrong things to say. Let's quote a famous book by George Orwell, 1984. They are, in a sense, like they're the thought police. They are watching you on your social media. They're watching you at your job, and they will try to destroy you if you say anything that they disagree with.
Absolutely, and there's been many examples of this over the last year or so. there was an SNL writer who made a joke. It was a terrible joke. I can't remember if she was an SNL writer or not, but there was someone, she was going to Africa, and she got on the plane, and right before she got on the plane, she posted a tweet and said, "Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS."
Yeah, yeah.
Not a good joke, not funny by any means. By the time she had landed on that plane, her hotel had been canceled. She had lost her job.
Yeah.
And she was under fire on the internet. Do I think that she should have lost her job over this?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Should she have gotten a little flack for making this terrible joke? Yeah, of course.
Right. Well,
but you should. It's a freedom of speech kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, it really falls under that. It may not be tasteful by any means, but you should be allowed to say it. You're not directly hurting anyone.
Right.
It's just a snarky comment about something that's happening.
And you know what? A lot of people tend to forget. Like, I mean, we live in a bubble in the United States. I will gladly admit that. And in my personal opinion, the United States is one of the best countries in the world. But we tend to forget that, you know, what's the sad thing is that brought a lot of attention to Africa and the fact that they still have an ongoing AIDS epidemic. I mean, really, when was the last time you heard something about that? I mean,
if somebody mentions Africa, that's the first thing that pops into my head. I mean, that's not a good thing, but it's part of their society.
I mean, they have a growing issue over there, and yet people like it. These things are only brought to our attention when it's convenient, and that's a
there's
massive
something to
issue.
be gained.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
not by the people that are affected.
A prime example of that is exactly what was going on at Dapple. You had all of these celebrities, you had Al Sharpton coming up here. Why did they come up here? They didn't care. Like what I said in the last podcast, they didn't give a fuck about this area prior to this, but they have something to gain. They have something to put on their resume. And so it's this exact same concept. Like you can't talk about it until they believe that it's okay to talk about it. But that there's just this massive issue in the logic. There are bad things going on all around the country, all around the world, and I will gladly admit that. But to try to limit what somebody says is probably, in my opinion, one of the worst things to do. It doesn't matter what they're talking about. Unless you are saying that there's a fire in a building that there isn't a fire on, I will protect your freedom of speech. I will defend it. I mean...
Well, and here's something that really gets me, is if somebody is preaching hate and they're saying terrible things, they're going to weed themselves out.
Right.
People are going to turn away from it. They're not going to want to hear it. They'll say, "Oh, I don't like it," and they'll turn away, or they'll try and debate this person and most likely destroy them.
Hopefully.
But what social justice warriors are trying to do is just attack these people and fight hate with hate.
Right.
You're not going to get anywhere doing that. And they claim that they're doing it in the name of equality and peace, but all they're doing is using hate.
Yeah, they're using hate. They're virtue signaling. They're playing racial politics.
Buzzwords.
I mean, that's one of the. That's another concept that I cannot quite wrap my head around. I mean, they play more racial politics than anybody else that I've ever known. I look at people of like, you know what? If they're of different color, I still think, hey, this person could be a fascist. This person could be a communist. This person could be anything that you could really think of. It does not matter what their skin color is. What matters is their character.
Yes. The fascism thing gets me every time.
Yeah.
Because that is one of their favorite things to do is call you a fascist. But what they're doing by trying to silence your freedom of speech falls under fascism.
Yeah. No, and I mean, what we've seen is an elevation of their activities too. I mean, the burning of houses in Dapple. You have the riots over in Berkeley over Milo. You have people shooting other people. You have people burning other people. Yeah.
There was a riot as soon as Trump got elected. And they're saying he is hateful and he's the racist and he's the one using fear.
Yeah.
But they're trying to use fear to get him out of office.
Yeah. You know what would be the most interesting combination of events is one of these what the left would call Nazis, right? If they went out and they did a talk at an NRA meeting, right? So you have the National Rifle Association with one of these people that incite all of these riots. Because now, I mean, you have these people like creating violence And if you put a room full of people with guns, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to defend themselves. I mean, this is how civil wars start out, and it's just bad behavior. How about we sit down, we come to the table, and we have a debate, we have a conversation, and we try to compromise. You can't, if you're not willing to listen to my argument, and I'm not willing to listen to your argument, we're not going to get anywhere. That's why I always open up and say, hey, you know what? I am going to hear you. I'm going to listen. And I want to hear, if you have logic in your argument, I will listen. I will change certain aspects of my belief system. But the other side has to come to the table with that too.
Absolutely. If you're not willing to listen, you're never going to get anywhere.
Right. Well, I mean,
that falls under the safe space thing. If you're shutting yourself out from everything, you can't change anything in the world. These things aren't going to go anywhere. You
Right.
need to get out there, experience them, learn about them, and then try to stop them.
Yes.
Not ignore them.
And it's up to you. It's up to you as an individual. I mean, don't trust in the government to continue to do all these things for you, which, I mean, if you have an issue with something, come up with a plan and a solution and bring it to other people inside of your local government or inside of your state government and try to resolve the issue. Don't complain and expect this elected official that you have nothing in common to actually do something for you.
By creating these safe spaces, you're not helping anyone. Because what's going to happen when they do graduate college and they go into the workforce?
The workforce is going to have to adapt to them. I mean,
But if you look at what a safe space is, that a job, most businesses cannot afford to do that. Because what a safe space is you have coloring books, you could watch TV.
Yeah.
I mean, you get blankets, you could take a nap.
yep.
No job is going to put up with that.
No.
There might be a few here and there that are going to try, but they're going to realize it's not feasible, and they're going to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah, no. Or they probably just won't hire them.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, any type of indication that you fall into those lines, I mean, it'll cause some issues.
If you go into your job interview and ask if you have a safe space, I don't think you're going to get a job.
No. But I know that we kind of went off a little bit off of the topic there. But it is time for this podcast to be done with and over with. I hope that you guys are enjoying. Make sure you check us out on our website. I mean, like, share, follow us, whatever you want to do. But
Yes.
also, if you have a different opinion, make a comment.
On any of our videos, you can send us an email on our website.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't agree with something, let us know. Let's talk it out. Let's have a conversation.
Thank you very much.